Have you found yourself navigating a dark night of the soul? Are you craving a deeper connection with the divine feminine? Are you ready to integrate the balanced union of the masculine and feminine within? Then let's get started on the journey towards wholeness to reclaim your sovereign soul. My name is Cynthia Clarke. Over the past several decades, I have undergone many dark nights of the soul. My healing journey has been a reclamation of my sovereign divinity. Whether you're just starting out on your self-healing journey or have been exploring techniques for many years, Discover Divinity offers an opportunity to uncover the new possibilities for discovering and reclaiming the innate wisdom within. It is time to discover the new possibilities. It is time to discover you. What happens when the version of God that you've been taught about becomes the very source of your fear? In this heart-opening episode, stepping outside the box, breaking free from fear to embrace intuition and inner wisdom, Brichelle Cummings shares her deeply personal story of leaving behind a rigid religious framework to rediscover her connection to spirit through intuition, ancestral guidance, and the healing wisdom of the earth. From unraveling perfectionism to building a soul-led practice rooted in love, Brichelle's story is an invitation to trust your inner knowledge and reclaim your spiritual path. Let's get started. Welcome to the Discover Divinity Podcast, Reclaim Your Sovereign Soul. I'm your host, Cynthia Clarke, the founder of Discover Divinity and discoveringdivinity.com. In today's episode, we are going to be sitting down for a powerful conversation about what it means to navigate spiritual change with courage and compassion. My guest, Brichelle, is going to be opening up about her journey of reevaluating long-held beliefs, rediscovering her inner voice, and building a spiritual life that is rooted in authenticity, love, and connection. We are going to be discussing some of the emotional challenges that come with stepping away from fear-based systems and the beauty and growth that can emerge when you begin to trust yourself and your path again. This episode is for anyone who's ever felt the quiet nudge to question, the ache to expand, or the desire to connect with something deeper and truer. Whether you're in the middle of a shift or you're just starting to explore, I hope that this conversation offers support, insight, and a reminder that you are not alone. Today, I am honored to welcome a very special guest, Brichelle Cummings. I have known Brichelle for the past 7 years and have had the sacred privilege of working with her through one-on-one sessions. It has been such a joy to watch her develop her spiritual gifts and bloom into a powerful and insightful healer that she is today. She is an energy healer and an astrology enthusiast dedicated to help others integrate the spiritual wisdom into their daily lives. Brichelle is a graduate of the 6-month Discover Divinity Holistic Health and Energy Alignment program, and she's completed several Discover Divinity Master Training courses as she has been further expanding her expertise in various energy healing modalities. She is a passionate advocate for kindness. Brichelle embraces a vegan lifestyle and believes in honoring the earth, animals, and people with deep respect. She is also a devoted wife and mother of 2 boys and 2 angel girls, drawing inspiration from her own journey to uplift and support others on theirs. So welcome to the show, Brichelle.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
Yes.
It's kind of my first time doing anything like this, so it should be fun and exciting.
Yes, you have been such an amazing example of an individual who really is willing to stand up and to go inward, to really go in and to be willing to look at the things that need to be uncovered and to dive in and to do your work. And so I just want to reiterate like how amazing it has been to watch you really unfold, like I said, in these past 7 years. And, you know, it's funny, as I guess I'll just start with it. It was when we were doing one of our master training courses, perhaps, or maybe the 6-month program. But I remember we were really diving into astrology, and it's been fun to be able to dive into the different aspects of who we are. Now, astrology goes super deep, but we were just uncovering the aspects of the sun sign. And for the viewers out there, we will have an episode that covers kind of astrology 101. And so if you are curious, be sure to go back and listen to the astrology 101 episode so that you can kind of uncover some of those fun aspects. But I remember seeing a little meme or something with all the different astrology signs and how they showed up in the planet. And I remember showing this to the group. And one of the individuals had this gorgeous pink hair, like completely amazing, fascinating person that had so much to share, so much to offer. And she was lurking behind a plant. Like so dynamic, so amazing. And as she was lurking behind this plant, you know, there was a lot of fear of showing up in the world. And I think as a Libra, right, that's kind of an expression of Libra. I would love for you to expand on that, because I think it shares a lot about your energy. There's been such a dynamic, fierce part about who you are, but also part of you that had apprehension in kind of stepping into that safety of being authentic. And now, obviously, you're in a completely different place, but would you go ahead and just share a little bit about that Libra energy and how it's shown up for you?
Yeah. I remember going to that event. You were the first one that kind of introduced me to the idea that like life can be magical. And going to your events and the ones that you would have in your backyard just really opened something like important to my life. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're so welcome.
So I feel like that's something like this Libra part of me, like the apprehension. I've come a long way, and I can still feel where I still, I'm working on that, right? It's been layered for me. And being so, like, went back then, like, being so scared. I felt so much fear of moving into this place that I know to this authentic part of myself that I know I am. But that duality of like, oh, I don't think I can, and feeling safe to do that, and finding that balance, which is very Libra. It's been a process, and it's taken a lot, and I'm still working on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially when an individual has been raised in structures or formats that are very high demand, black or white thinking, sometimes that you know, can really get messed up for someone who rides in that Libra energy, because Libra is all about balance, right? And so making sure too that you're following all the rules. And it's really interesting when your inner compass is different than sometimes that box that you've been raised in. There's an internal battle and there's an internal conflict, and it can be a very jarring experience as a human on the planet. And so, is there anything you wanted to share about that?
Kind of along that, I've learned a lot about astrology, obviously, and the Libra energy is really good at seeing different perspectives. And so it was really hard for me to, like, I grew up in this very particular way, and I could see that perspective and I understood that, but I was also good at seeing other people living their lives, and it was really a confusing place to be because I was like, well, what? Like, I grew up thinking that this was the only way, and I'm noticing that there's lots of different ways that make sense, that are logical, that feel like correct for them. So it was just a lot of confusion and mental battles for myself for a long time.
Yeah, and I remember it was probably in one of our sessions together, and prior to us getting onto this recording, I have gotten permission from Brichelle to share these different parts, because it does it shows the blossoming and the part of her growth that it took, and especially for a listener out there who does feel like they are kind of going through this inward battle, to be able to help them feel like they're not alone in this process, and to know that inner struggle can be real. But I remember when we were working together, just being shown this whole entire visual of you just desiring so much to get over or past like this gate. It was kind of like almost like a gateway or a doorway of this next level that you were trying so hard to get through, but energetically you were tethered to something that was bonding you and binding you at that time. And so it was so hard for you to let go of. And I'll let you expand a little bit more on that, what that meant for you at the time. But I think it was a really good symbol of some of those inner battles and inner struggles that you were going through at the time. And so feel free to share whatever feels serving to you.
Yeah. I remember that experience, and I remember how significant it was. And at the same time, I remember feeling like, what am I even tethered to? Like, I don't know. I don't understand what's going on. Why? Like, I just want to be free. And I don't understand what it is that's holding me back. And I felt like during that experience, it was kind of like that initiation or step that kind of opened that door for me to start figuring out what was actually going on.
Well, and I think even at the time, prior, you didn't have the ability to see what it was, because you had to go through that linear process of uncovering and unpeeling what later on then you would realize and see, oh my goodness, this is what I've had myself tethered to. This is the inward battle. This is the inward struggle of, it's almost kind of like feeling like two different people sometimes. Trying to be the person who is trying to make sure they don't disrupt anyone's energy field at all, because with the Libra energy, with my Libra being the rising sign for me, you're in a Sun Libra, but I get, wanting to make sure that you're the people pleaser. You don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. You want to make sure everyone's happy. You want to make sure that, we're following the recipe and rote, because we just want everyone happy in life, right? And so being able to try to navigate that in a way when you're still being true to yourself and what your belief system is, and when sometimes that doesn't always go in alignment with maybe the way that you've been raised or some of the belief systems that you were taught, that's when it can kind of push you into, like we said, the initiation, or even parts of that dark night of the soul that we address here on the Discover Divinity podcast. That dark night of the soul is not an easy experience. And so when we use the word initiation, I feel like that helps lighten up such a big word or phrase that dark night of the soul is, because yes, it does. It feels like a dark night of the soul. And And during that, it can feel like nothing positive is coming from it. But as we kind of rise from those ashes, as we kind of come out of that crumbling, desolation, black abyss energy, it is kind of like that butterfly in the cocoon. Well, it's, moving into that transformative state.
Yeah.
That then you can start to see that it's kind of rebirthing you into a new experience. And so I guess I want to give you a chance to be able to share anything, from that point of time when I was like, Brichelle, I see you tethered to this thing and you want to go through this gateway. Maybe anything from that transitory part of that initial breaking apart, the initial part of that initiation that then brought you into where I'll bridge into the next question, which is going to be the main theme that you had to clean up and let go of. Because we want to get from point A to clear over here at point B to maybe give the audience just a little bit of information that feels serving to you. And then so that they can understand where you ended up coming into this next stage of your transition.
Yeah. I felt like it was kind of a long process, and it probably wasn't like that long, but it felt like a long process of trying to embrace the spiritual life that I had discovered. Like, I remembered this part of myself, and I loved it. I felt like I was actually like living in a way that was more authentic and real, and in a way that I'd never experienced before. And so it was a lot of like trying to embrace that side of me, but make my current worldview and beliefs fit into that. And I feel like I stayed there for a couple of years. I found spiritual teachers and people that were kind of in that box. And I mean, I did a lot of work there, and I made a lot of progress. I healed a lot during that time. And I think that was a more gentle, movement into where I was going, and it had to happen that way for me, or else it would have been too hard. Like, that would have been too abrupt and traumatic.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that, and that is the perfect place for a lot of people that are in that transitory position, staying inside of that box of beliefs and practicing a little bit outside, right? Yes. A little bit outside the box. And that's perfect. Exactly where they're at. And I did that for years and years. And I do believe that every stage of our life is exactly as it should be. Yes. And those belief systems or those structures were exactly what I needed. They're exactly what everyone needs to teach and to allow them to grow. And so there's no right or wrong. I think it does, but it is a process, and to be able to have a safe landing as you do then peel back more layers, right? Because that's kind of where you went after that, because eventually after you peeled back those layers and you were like, whoa, okay, this is really getting into a part of yourself that was still a layer of that dark night, that you eventually had to like come to the space of going, wow, I need to clean this up, and I have to be able to let go of this in order to be authentic to myself. And so what do you feel was your main theme that you had to clean up after you kind of went through these safer transitory posts of your journey?
I feel like during that transition period, I was really redefining what God meant to me. One of the first things that I remember was this idea that, God's this being that's just like up there judging me and like just he's causing, because he loves me, he's causing me to have all of these traumatic experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was in that period, I was like, well, that doesn't even make sense. I don't understand. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I can't get on board with that anymore. And so that was one of the first things, as well as the concept of Satan.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as I worked through healing and stuff and understand emotions and the subconscious and programming and all these things, I was like, well, this doesn't feel like Satan's like tempting me. This doesn't feel like Satan's talking to me or trying to influence me. This
Mm-hmm.
just feels like unhealed trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I kind of like let go of him, like as an idea, because I was like, I don't even know where he fits into my life anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to kind of let that go. And
Yeah.
it was kind
Well,
of an
well,
interesting time.
well, it is because when we have something like the label of God or the word God, which is something that most people love, and they innately just
Yes.
want to be good people on the planet, and serve and to be in a realm where they're just helping and loving and being a good human on the planet, to then have ideologies that then turn back and say, well, you better do this, and if not, this bad thing's going to happen to you, right? Like it is a battle. Like I said, again, it's like these two realities. God loves me, yet God is out to get me, right? It's like these two
Yes.
parts of self. And so this is where, if the listeners haven't gone back and listened to the episode where we dive into the divine feminine, we kind of dissect some of the aspects of toxic patriarchy. This toxic patriarchal cycle, or part of the ideologies, has then taken something that is so precious, so innately part of who we are, like our connection to source and pure love, and they've laced it with controlling, manipulative tactics that are fear-based and are shame-based, and essentially you are being controlled,
Yes.
and you're afraid. So when you serve or you try to check your boxes or dot your I's or cross your T's, you're in this frantic hamster wheel type of energy, just running and chasing to be perfect and to do everything you have to do because you're afraid that you're not gonna have dot dot dot, you're not gonna have all the blessings, you're not gonna get to be with your family, you're not gonna get to be with God. And so everything that's founded on those teachings is based off of fear. And
Yes.
so dealing with fear, in the work that I do, is such a big root for so many people. When we sit
Yeah.
and we face that shadow of fear, it's big. It's not just one toxic weed in the garden. We've usually got multiple toxic roots of fear. And so being able to contend with that, to lean into it, that's not an easy feat. And so ultimately, what gave you the courage to finally go, wait, that's an illusion, right? Fear's an illusion. The shame's an illusion. Like what was kind of like that waking moment? Maybe it was a couple waking moments where you finally were like, oh, I don't, I don't resonate
Yeah.
with that anymore.
Yeah. I going along with what you were talking about, I I didn't realize that my whole life I like there was a reason I was so anxious my whole
Mm-hmm.
life, that I was so tense because everything I did was out of fear. I never felt like I was good enough and I was always trying cuz like I wanted to be a good person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just felt like, "Oh my gosh, I am not doing enough. I'm not trying hard enough." And it just the amount of fear was intense.
Mm-hmm.
And even now, like just recently, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm still like there is a whole nother layer here
Mm-hmm.
of trying to release this. But what really, I had this really significant moment. One Sunday, like I had been experiencing a lot, like about a year of going to church and just being so emotionally drained because I was trying to, fit the two beliefs together, like the two parts of myself together, and it just wasn't working. And I was so stressed and exhausted every time I got home. And one Sunday I was like, I can't do it. Like getting ready, I was like, I can't do it. And I'm not going. And that was big for me because usually it was, oh, if you don't go, all this guilt and shame and all this stuff. But I consciously was like, I can't, like I am so afraid all the time, and I don't understand why am I doing this out of fear? I just feel like I'm being controlled. And I prayed and I was like, God, can you just show me what's wrong inside myself? Like, why am I feeling this way? And I just fix it. Like, I'll do the work, I'll fix it, just show me what's going on. And I got just the clearest, like, okay, like, I'm gonna show you. And it was after then that, like, I just started seeing everything, and I started noticing where I was feeling fear and when, and all the beliefs and everything that were contradicting what felt right to me. It was pretty intense.
Wow. And to like come into that awareness too of starting to recognize where that judgmental image of God was affecting your inner world. Like this goes all the way back to your childhood, but it also streams in to the generational lines. Like this isn't just you that's had this fear and shame like programmed into you. Like this goes all the way through generations of time. And so we have at least 7 generations in our blood. And so not only are we trying to clear our own stuff, we have all of this other stuff that is kind of putting our bodies into that natural fight or flight response. And so not only to recognize for yourself being in that building that made you feel so off, you probably also had some of those generational belief systems that were showing up, the programs that eventually is kind of like that. The way that I see it is you kind of chained, again, I'm seeing you chained to that tether of sorts, but it was that moment that you were breaking those chains. You were breaking the chains of the generational programs. You were breaking that bond that you had in your own personal experience to finally say, no more, enough, right? And that's where you started to maybe shift your perception of your sense of worth, how you viewed other people, and how you were going to then start showing up in life. And so, maybe that's where you can dive into a little bit more of that fear, right? And that frequency of it being such a low vibration, and maybe dovetailing a little bit more into trying to remember your self-worth.
Yeah, this has been a big process, and I feel like I'm heading into a new season where I'm going to go even deeper with this, because I didn't have any growing up. Like, I did not think highly of myself. I thought I was pretty broken and couldn't do anything right. And, like, which is really weird because that's not how I was taught. Like, we were taught that we're all God's children and we're all wonderful and beautiful, and which confused me because I'm like, well, then why do I feel like this? If that is the truth, then how come I feel like this? And it messed with the relationship I had with myself and other people. It was so confusing because I felt like I'm a good person. I see the best in people, and I think I've always been that way. But it created this situation where I kind of like because I judged myself so harshly, that was definitely projected out to other people too. And I just, like, if they weren't living like the beliefs that I was so desperate trying to hold on to and follow, if they weren't doing it, well, then they weren't very good, right? Like, it was such a fearful place to be, and yeah, just such a low vibration to sit in for so long.
Well, and as we're covering in the podcast, we talk about the rise of the divine feminine. We talk about toxic patriarchy and its sweeping of the divine feminine off the planet. As we're moving into the Aquarian age, we're moving out of those toxic structures and moving into more of a peaceful energy of sorts. That at the same time, we're confronting a lot of the chaotic energies. And a lot of those chaotic energies are the ones that are having to be confronted. They're the ones that are now really having the light shown on them. And we are moving out of that old hierarchical structure, right? Where everything is just, especially being raised in an organization or a structure that does teach you that the way that you learn is the only way. That's it, right? And so it puts the rest of the entire planet as wrong, and you as the only one having the truth. And so it does create hierarchy, right? But what we know and understand about hierarchy is that's an implication of the toxic patriarchy. And so what's happening in the Aquarian age is that hierarchical structure is crumbling, and these toxic formats are really having the light shown on them, and they're not. It's almost as if it's kind of like, it reminds me of a building and a foundation. Many of those structures are crumbling because they've used the shame, they've used the manipulation, they've used the control, the fear to be their driving forces. Yeah. And that is not a vibration or a field that will move into this Aquarian age with success. No. There are too many people that are going, whoa, that's not in alignment or in a vibration of who I am. And so many people are waking up to the old ideology, and it just does not work anymore. And so the structures are going to have to change out of hierarchies into more of a circular energy, which is unity. Honoring. Yes, it's all about unity, and it's not one is better than the other. It's holding a space of honor and pure love in that divine feminine, who also in union with the divine masculine is very honoring. It's very intrinsic. It works together. So it's kind of an exciting time. It's not an easy time, because what's happening is we are breaking free. Those chains are falling apart due to thousands and thousands of years of these fear-based structures. And so, being able to, for you, like, how have you now been able to release that framework? I realize it's a process, but how do you experience your spirituality now and connect into source as what feels good to you now? Because maybe in 5 years from now, maybe that'll look different. But for your evolving journey right where you're at, how does that look?
It's been through a process. But I think I'm pretty comfortable where I'm at. And it could totally change in the future. But at first I really could not connect to this idea of source, because I for so long have had this idea of a male god. It was very very literal and real, and I could imagine it and picture it, and I felt like I had created a relationship with God. And then, like, hearing people describe source and pure love. And I'm like, what is that? What is that? I can't comprehend that. So for a long time, I really like kind of leaned on the belief that we're all part of source, whatever source is. And that means that my ancestors, my guides, like the earth, Mother Gaia, like we're all part of it. So I kind of like leaned on to that understanding to kind of feel that and connect. And I feel like recently I've come to more of a comfortable place with the idea of connecting to source. And my husband is so funny. He loves Star Wars. And so I think about this all the time about the Force in Star Wars and how it like binds and connects everyone, and it gives like the Jedis their power. I'm like, oh, well, that's all sources. Like we're all little fractals of source. We're all connected. We are all like divine. And I don't know, like, and I can connect into that. I can connect into that creation energy and feel that. And I look at everyone so differently now. It's so cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think it's going to look different for every single listener here. And so I think using the word source is a very universal term, because source may be something that each individual will define differently. And it really is perfect. It's perfect wherever you're at. Because when we were talking earlier, you know, prior, when you were going through a transitory state, being in the belief system that you were at that time was perfect, and it helped you grow, it helped you learn. And there are even things prior to that, right, of even having a knowledge or a connection that you came from a loving source was probably a catapult or a catalyst to help you come into your evolving understanding. And so I think you know, being able to just be open for most people to know that that's going to look different. But as humans, when we can gather in the circle and let go of our hierarchical energies, I think no matter what belief system you're in, I think we can gather across the collective of the planet and honor so many different people wherever they're at, and look at all these beautiful cultures all over the entire world that define source in their perfect terminology, to then build that relationship to help them stay connected, connected to that universal force, stay connected to Mother Gaia, but also feel connected to that sacred wisdom and divinity within. And so what a beautiful share to see, you know, see how you have come, but also you had mentioned that, you know, connecting with your ancestors, connecting with your guides, you know, connecting with Mother Gaia, or some of those aspects that have been healing for you. They've been grounding for you, and they're really helping you step into your spiritual path. And even prior, I think, you know, working with you for, you know, the past 7 years and seeing your growth and your journey, I believe it was probably one of our very first sessions together, how perfect and pure and wonderful that was to be able to connect in with loved ones with that lens. And I'm sure that that's changed for you with the way that you see that, but knowing that that has always remained a truth for you. So I would love for you to just expand maybe a little bit more on that spiritual path.
Yeah, so connecting to ancestors has always been a big thing for me. Like I remember when my grandpa died, you know, it's going on 15 years now. Like I just knew when he passed, and I felt him all the time after he died. And then like any grandparent that's gone after, like I've tried to build that relationship and connection. And so, and I did that within the framework that I was, that I grew up in. And so I felt like that was kind of like, it gave me like an easy landing in sort of a way, because I could still connect to them. And yeah, that first session where we worked together, I had two conjoined twins that didn't make it, and like they were just, it was not going to work. And they passed away, and my grandma had passed a little bit before that, I believe. And since then, like, she's been with me. I call her my angel guide because she's just such a lovely, like, beautiful energy, and she helps me work through all sorts of stuff. Like, even just the other day, she helped me like take this huge step in my spiritual journey, and like it's been amazing. I love working with the ancestors, and we're not alone, and that feels so nice.
Well, and I think sometimes in the work that we do, especially in the energy healing realm, especially in shadow work, you know, and coming into this space, a lot of times we can get stuck in all the negative aspects of our ancestral energies that we have to clear, because there is so much, right? But being able to also take that part that needs to be healed and weave it into all of these beautiful, wonderful parts of who we are as well, and to use that wisdom, that part of our ancestral knowledge and awareness to be able to help us in current time, to be able to break those chains, because I believe that those ancestral stories, those experiences, those really deep, hard times, they don't want to be a prisoner to that any longer as well.
Right.
And so I believe that they're here with us, bringing us those messages, helping us to be able to have the awarenesses, the ahas, so that we can shift the patterns for the future, like shift a lot of these cyclical, dysfunctional programs, right, that move us through aspects of things per se, like the drama triangle, right? This victim, martyr, punisher energy that humans play all the time. Like, we're working together to break out of that so that we can come out of the hierarchy and move into that circular, unified, pure love energy. And, you know, when we do step into that space of after we've moved through the dark night of the soul and move into that initiation, it is helping us really, truly clear a new path, so that we can let go and step into it. So we can also look at those negative things and have gratitude for them as we then start to transmute it into what it is we desire, what we choose, and what we are now implementing moving forward.
Yeah. I have one experience that I guess I really need to share. So I had a grandmother pass recently, and it was a really interesting experience because I've never had a grandparent or a family member pass, kind of at the stage I'm at now, where I'm not, you know, affiliated with the religion of my youth that all my family is. And it was kind of a scary place to be, because, you know, I had found myself kind of not opening up to her when she was here, for fear of like disappointing her or whatever. You know, that fear again. But then when she passed, like, I had gone to visit her, and she was just laying there, and she hadn't passed yet, and I was just like tuning in and just feeling and talking to her, and, you know, she said the most beautiful thing that really, like, kind of, I don't know, confirms in my mind what you were just saying. She just told me, like, you are perfect exactly as you are. Like, the fact that you are no longer part of this religion and you believe differently, like, it didn't matter to her. Like, that higher perspective and everything, it felt so good to feel that. That we're kind of all in it together, and she didn't care. Like, it was okay.
Yeah. And oh gosh, that's so beautiful. And I love that you had that experience. Because there are a lot of individuals that aren't able to get to that point until they have crossed over, and they have gone into that other realm. And it's because they are so bonded and they are so infused with the fear that it's so hard for them to believe or be open to any other way besides that way. And so what a beautiful gift that your grandma was given to be able to like come into an awareness, especially probably being close to that veil of crossing over, that she was given more of an awakening or an awareness of the bigger picture, like the bigger picture of what that pure love is about. And so wow, what a gift for you. And I'm sure that that was very helpful in your healing path.
Yes.
To know that you're on the right track, even though you probably still get that resistance, you get that rejection from other individuals who probably project that fear or that shame because of their own fear and shame, right?
Exactly.
Like that's what's happening is there is so much of that fear and shame woven into that matrix, let's call it. That I think that some of those individuals probably will never be able to step out of that and until maybe like your grandma, when she was right on that end of her life. But I think too, our relationships with other people, we're different people, right? We have different experiences, and we're here also to be mirrors, but we're also here to be triggers for one another. And so it is, sometimes these life experiences that we go through that help us learn and grow. And so on both ends are we here teaching and learning to grow together. So so you had also mentioned something, connecting with your ancestors, but you've also mentioned connecting in with Mother Earth. I think we're very similar as far as like just having a love for nature and how powerful that is to be able to just get out, get your feet in the grass, breathe in that beautiful connection into the oxygen of life, or hear the birds around you, like, connecting with a tree, and really tuning in is so powerful. And so I would love for you to share just a little bit more about that expansion that you've been able to go through.
Yeah, I feel like that I've always been connected to the earth, and I grew up going camping and I absolutely loved it. But I went through a time where I've been really disconnected from the earth, and kind of stepping into that again has been beautiful. Like just this morning, it was raining and I was on my way to my workout, and like just listening to the birds chirping and it just drizzling, and it's so healing. And it's so like, there's so much power in, I don't know, being part of the earth. Like we came here to this earth. Like it's just so cool to connect to her and find healing through her. It's been a really beautiful process.
It really is. And I love that you point that out, because this morning for me, when I looked out at my trees, I could see the smallest little dewdrops. It was almost as if the tree and its branches, they were glistening like little diamonds. And when we truly lean into that power of presence, and we are here because everything's energy, everything has a frequency. When we can really stand with the rain, the tree, the blades of grass, the soil, the fruit, the birds, I mean, it's exhilarating to be able to come back into that. And when we step into presence, that's when we are able to step into true healing as well. Because when we're stuck in the past, that is a lot of times, keeping us bound. It's keeping us stuck into the old, right? Into a lot of that frequency then. Or if we're sitting here into the future, worrying about the what ifs, what's coming, we aren't in the here and now, and we are not able to really truly lean into those healing frequencies the way that they were designed to assist us. And it's one of the greatest sources of healing that has been gifted to us for free. There's nothing that we have to pay for or do to utilize nature. It's all around us. It's at our free disposal. This is the gift that our source, our connection into pure love has given us to heal ourselves. We've also been gifted that power of our breath, to be able to utilize that connection into nature to also vibrate with the rhythms of the earth. And when we can truly vibrate with the rhythm of the earth, we heal. And it's when we put our shoes on, when we live in these boxed houses or drive in cars, we're blocking off that resonance that's there. And so very powerful. I believe that we both just dived right into those healing properties. So thank you for sharing that. I was going to ask you, we have talked about, working with the ancestors, tuning into Mother Gaia, but you had also mentioned, some of those challenges that you had and conceptualizing what source looked like for you, right? It was an evolving process. What do you feel like has moved you into the biggest shift in how you now experience spirituality? If you can maybe get into maybe an experience or a moment that brought you some unexpected peace or clarity.
Well, so I kind of view my whole life, like everything about my life, as spirituality, where it was very compartmentalized before. Like, there was your religion and your beliefs, and they were supposed to influence your whole life, but I view everything through this lens of spirituality. I don't know. So creating like a practice, and I don't have anything like super rigid. It kind of flows with whatever I need. Honestly, like astrology is a big part of that, like influencing like what am I going through, and like where do I need to dive deep, and what needs nurtured, and that's very very influenced by astrology for me. But also I've been working with a friend. She was actually on the podcast, Jen. I've been working with her and learning kind of these shamanic practices, and I feel like it's really taken me to a deeper level of expanding my spirituality and just expanding myself, helping me remember like really who I am. And I kind of feel like that's the phase I'm in right now, like really, really remembering who I am. Beautiful. And why I'm here.
And that's why I've just loved watching you kind of go through these stages of awakening, coming into this evolving journey, and with my own love and awareness of that shamanic path through my own studies, my own practices. It really is beautiful to see you kind of like come into this sacred part of the journey, right? Because going through the shamanic path, there are those dark nights of the soul. Those are those experiences, right? Which are those initiations. They are those stages where we do go through the transformative process of the little caterpillar that makes its way, eats a nice big green leaf. I don't know if you remember that book called The Very
Hungry Caterpillar?
Oh, yes.
Something like that.
Yes, The Very Hungry Caterpillar by Eric Carle. So
yes.
that's one of my invitations. If you haven't read that book, go read it, because it is really that process that we go through as humans, and it's ever evolving. And I love that you referenced your spiritual journey just kind of being like the whole entire experience of life, because I think our entire process from the time we're born to the time we die is the process of the caterpillar that eventually eats a whole bunch of leaves to eventually wrap itself up into this little cocoon and to go into an abyss of darkness and breaking down, so that eventually it can come into the peepholes of light of new awareness and growth, and then being able to push its way out and have a new set of wings and to fly and to enjoy these new layers. And then the process starts over, right? We go back into where we have larvae that grows into the caterpillar, and we go through that process over and over. And so it is beautiful, and all the experiences, in that what we now see as a box was actually perfect.
Yes.
That box was a beautiful structure that can give such beautiful wisdom, awareness, understanding, growth. And it kind of just reminds me of different grade levels that we go through in life. We go through preschool, we go through kindergarten, grades 1 through 6, or 7 through 9, 10 through 12, and then we go through college and maybe go through these master degrees, etc., doctorate. And sometimes you reach a place, right, that you're like, wow, I've come to this space that this is where I've learned everything that I need to in this part of my life. And now it's time to step out of that box and to expand and to learn and to grow. And really it is, even though it can feel incredibly scary, because of the rooted foundations of fear and shame, manipulation, control, they're kind of big ones, to not want to step outside of the box. These really are the catalysts. Those are kind of the shadows, being able to face the fear, face the shame, all of those things inside of us that then helps us learn how to innately come back into a self-trust and being able to listen to our own intuition, to be able to feel safe in going, who am I? What do I believe? And what is true for me and my authentic path on the planet. So,
yeah, it's beautiful.
Yes.
And I mean, for me, one of my newer beliefs is in reincarnation. And I found that to be such a beautiful thing, because it's just that process, that like evolution process over lifetimes. And it doesn't feel like there's so much pressure that you have to get everything right in this life.
Yeah.
And then then you're done. No, you are evolving, and your soul has come to Earth to figure something out, and then you keep going. At least that's my belief.
Yeah, and I love that you're sharing your beliefs, because, like I said, for every single individual, it may look differently, and it's okay.
Exactly.
What you're exploring now is being able to help you sift through and uncover what your truth is.
Yes.
And it's perfect. And so I love being able to hear people's journeys, working with individuals very closely who have gone through very extreme dark nights of the soul, and also have had to confront very difficult experiences going through faith transition. Being able to have a safe place to land is perfect. And you have to understand that when individuals go through such a tumultuous process, you go from one end of a pendulum at times that can swing you all the way over to the complete opposite. And so there's so many places to land in between.
Yeah.
and that's something that I would love for the audience to walk away with, is to be okay wherever they're at, no matter where they're at on that pendulum, because it's a very natural process, especially if you've had betrayal, you've had deceit, that is connected into what can cause an individual to go through a faith transition, to know that it is very normal to go into a complete space of knowing and surety of all the exact right and correct answers, to then swing all the way over into a complete abyss and going, I know nothing, I know zero, and I have no idea. And so to be able to love and accept yourself at wherever you're at, knowing that that's okay, and then being able to feel safe to explore what is right and what is true for you, is part of that childlike curiosity that we get to rebirth into. We get to open up that door into exploration, right? Just like a toddler that was once a baby that couldn't crawl, right? They learned how to get into the crawling phase and explore all the things on the ground, stick all kinds of things in its mouth, and then eventually standing, learning how to balance out on its feet, and then learn that, okay, if we open this cupboard, what's going to happen? Like, or if we touch the stove, and I think we get to go through that exploratory process as well, and being okay with saying, oh, I feel good about this, and allowing that to give you spiritual growth, and knowing, in 2 years, 5 years, that process can evolve, that can look different, and it's perfect, and it teaches us wherever we're at.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
So I appreciate you. I appreciate you sharing that, because I love that, the astrology. I love that the shamanism has kind of moved you into this space of being able to use that next exploration part of you, move you into that curiosity, move you into that questioning, to live a more fully aligned life that then probably also reconnects you into your core values. Because even though you've stepped outside of a box, or you've moved out of that, like you graduated from that grade level, right?
Yeah.
You're probably coming back to parts of you that have always been, that have always existed. And so do you mind sharing a little bit more about that, of how that spirituality has allowed you to live more in that full alignment?
Yeah. I definitely feel like, those core values, who I am, hasn't really changed. I'm still like the hippie child that, wants to be vegan and, loves the earth and a tree hugger and all that. Like, I'm still that person.
Yeah.
So really, my core values haven't really changed. I just feel like I can live them more authentically without trying to do the mental gymnastics around them. And I just really like the freedom. I'm learning that that's kind of a big deal for me, is being free to explore and think and not feel scared of considering something, like just being curious and it being okay to be curious.
Right, absolutely. And I know when we had kind of written down a couple of things for preparation before the podcast, you being able to just really recognize that when you were following someone else's rules or dogma, that wasn't in alignment with you, because you were doing it out of obligation. You were doing it out of fear. And now, being able to come into a space of grounding yourself in what those core values are, and letting go, right? Breaking those chains, letting that tether go, which was the fear. It was the shame. You are able to truly step outside of that box, and your whole world really has opened up into, it's as many times as I've watched individuals kind of come into this space of awareness, of their authenticity coming back into their own divine sovereign reclamation of their soul. It is like for the first time, after you have been inside of this cave-like energy for so long, and finally just stepping out and breathing oxygen. If you can think about maybe being in a stuffy, hot room, everyone's wearing perfume, and you're like, okay, this is too much for me. I gotta get out of here. And when you finally open the door, that feeling, and you're just able to feel the sun on your face. You're able to breathe in the fresh, crisp air, hear the birds chirping. It's a totally different world.
Yeah. That freedom feels so good.
Yes, it really does. And I love that you've been able to share some of that journey, because it really is quite an experience to share corners of your life. And I just wanted to give you the space if there's anything else that you feel you might want to share with anyone else on their journey.
I feel like we've talked about this, but
yeah,
getting curious.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't hurt you. It's okay to consider new ideas and possibilities. And I think I come with that naturally. I'm willing to look deep and look at the taboo, I guess. But that's really scary for a lot of people. And that's totally okay. And, the process isn't going to be, it's not I guess, a linear process. It's happening just right for you. Everything is right on track for yourself. And not to feel pressure that you're not doing it right, or, oh, so-and-so is, awakening at a faster pace than you.
Exactly.
No, that's not how it works. And yeah, it's perfect.
Yes. And I also believe that as individuals, we're all here evolving in different experiences. And so each individual has other things to offer, right?
Yes.
One person may have gone through a really difficult thing in this area, and so they've honed a lot of things in this life to become an expert. They've gone over lots and lots of hurdles where they have a really expansive expertise, but that doesn't mean that an individual out there who hasn't necessarily hopped over all those hurdles hasn't hopped over all these other hurdles of another experience of life. And so instead of being in that hierarchy, I said, if we can start to shift with the Aquarian age and move into more of that circular frequency, we all have gifts. We all have the ability to be able to offer and come to a sacred circle to be a very beautiful and intrinsic part of energy and spiritual wisdom that brings beautiful, beautiful gifts to the group as a whole. Yeah. And so never feel as an individual, for any listener out there, wherever you're at, know that your journey is perfect. And it is important to find those people who have jumped over many, many hurdles, to allow them to be those mentors or those supporters and those people, those cheerleaders that can help you through those things, but then also be able to recognize your gifts, your ability to come to the table, to be able to offer what it is you have overcome, what you have gone through, and we've got to eliminate the hierarchical structures. We've got to let that go out of our vocabulary. We've got to let go of this, I don't know, I keep hearing the word, it's so aggressive, and that's why I don't like it, but it's kind of like the dog eat dog mentality. It's so intense with the toxic patriarchal structure, and I'm like, it just doesn't work anymore. And so if you are craving, you know, more of that softened, beautiful, divine feminine energy, you're in the right place. Because that is, like I said, moving out of that toxic structure and coming into that innate sovereign wisdom. So, is there anything else you wanted to share today before we close up?
I don't think so. I
Yeah.
feel like we've kind of gone over at least all my notes.
Yes, wonderful. Well, I want to thank you again
Thank
for
you.
sharing your light and sharing your story and this beautiful evolving wisdom that you have tapped into, you know, with honesty, but also with so much grace. And your journey is a reminder that spiritual growth doesn't require perfection. It requires presence, curiosity, the courage to ask new questions. And for those of you that may be navigating your own faith transition or questioning old paradigms, just remember that you are not alone. There is room for your questions, your pain, your joy, and your unfolding. And thank you again for being with us today. And if you felt like this episode spoke to your heart, we will continue to have some amazing episodes that will continue to support you as you walk on this path of reclaiming your sovereign soul. So thank you. Continue to stay curious and trust the wisdom within. Thank you for listening to the Discover Divinity Podcast. If this podcast resonates with you, I invite you to check out discoveringdivinity.com. You will find resources to reclaim your sacred, sovereign spirituality. Here, you can join the Discover Divinity community, where we have free online community classes, as well as done-for-you courses and programs. Navigating the unique personal path to wholeness can feel overwhelming at times. If you would like further support or are ready to take your healing empowerment to the next level, I offer one-on-one intuitive sessions in a variety of different packages where we will discover, release, create, reclaim. Discover your innate wisdom that lies within. Release the imbalances that prevent you from living your truth. Create harmony in body, heart, mind, spirit, energy, and relationships. Reclaim your sovereign soul. It is time to discover new possibilities. It is time to discover you.